Much of it will come down to this Electoral Complaints Commission, which last year was very important in deciding to throw out 1 million ballots that had been cast for Hamid Karzai. The interesting thing this year, as we came to understand it, was that the Independent Electoral Commission, which was the operational force setting up the election and conducting it, last year was clearly a Karzai-led group. This year, they did institute some reforms, and this seemed to have improved the character of that group. However, at the same time, the Complaints Commission, we're told, has been weakened because Karzai gained control over that. Just as he was making reforms in the Independent Electoral Commission, making it more independent, at the same time, his decision to name all of the 5 members of the Complaints Commission, even though 2 are foreigners, nevertheless the feeling is that we may get a less stringent kind of observation on the part of the Complaints Commission. So where we may have gained one place, we may have lost the other.
Up to the back there.
Yes, hi, how are you? Saad Rahman, my name. Other countries in the Middle East, they introduced the one-man, one-vote system, especially in tribal society, to cement tribalism within the parliament and thus weaken and fracture parliaments. Would you say this is the effect of this is what we're going to see in parliament in Afghanistan as a policy issue?
The way the parliament is set up because of the electoral law, it is a fractured parliament. There are no political parties. There were actually 3 or 5 that did finally, but parties didn't matter. What you have is 249 separate parties, in effect. Everyone who's elected, pretty much, can say, I owe my election to the fact that I mobilized my forces locally. Nobody owes anything to anybody else, and since there was no policy-based group, or that's very weak, except for the fact that they may have affinity with another Pashtun or another Tajik, there's nothing that binds them together. So what you have, therefore, is an atomized parliament. This obviously means that it may be outside of Karzai's control, but at the same time, it can't operate as an effective legislative body. But that's not your question, is it?
It is. Just let me ask from the other side. If you introduce a system of one person, multi-votes, would you think that the first vote definitely would go to your cousin, but the second vote would go to a party or to an idea? Would that cement?
Yes. See, if they had introduced here it's called, it's a single non-transferable vote system. If they had transferable votes, which is one means of proportional representation, there are electoral systems out there that could, I think, enhance the character of the parliament to be able to operate in a more effective way than it is now. Right now, it's as I say, it's totally atomized, and nobody really can control it. Although Karzai is hopeful that from this process, he's going to get more support than he did last time.
I'm Bob Dreyfus with The Nation magazine. This is a country where we're spending $100 billion a year that has, I think, a $14 billion, total gross national product or something. So it's kind of absurd to me to talk about democracy in this country. But my question is, in the areas where the Taliban is strong, in Helmand and Kandahar, the provinces along the Fatah area, and so forth, did the election actually take place, and does it mean anything there? And second, Karzai has recently made a turn in the last 6 months toward Pakistan. He fired some security officials. He started talking about negotiating with the Taliban, and it caused a reaction among some of the ethnic groups in the north and the old Northern Alliance people and everything else who got fairly crabby about this. Wasn't that an issue in the election? Isn't that something that someone was talking about? I mean, I guess I'm picking up on Henry's question. I find it astonishing that somebody wasn't talking about life and death issues. And no one was saying, we've got to stop Karzai from selling us out to the Taliban. No one was saying our ethnic group has to mobilize in defense of these Pashtun-based Taliban fanatics. Or was it all about some bridge that somebody, I mean, I don't get it.
Who wants to take that one?
I mean, my sense, I'm sure that some of those discussions were happening. People in the North are very, I think many are disturbed about Karzai's outreach to the Taliban. My sense was that there was, people were definitely galvanized around ethnicity because different ethnic groups feel vulnerable, and there is a sense that your ethnic leader will automatically protect you. So I think it's clearly people's feelings of insecurity and vulnerability around the whole deteriorated security situation, and Karzai's overtures to the Taliban are causing ethnicity to be even a larger issue. People are definitely complain a lot about Karzai, and I think that certain individuals running for the parliament, but I don't have specific examples, and maybe Marvin does, sell themselves as being distant from Karzai. Governor Atta, who controls really the Balkh province, he has been an ally to Karzai, but he also speaks out against Karzai. He knows that politically he also has to show distance from Karzai. So I think they're discussing a lot of these different issues. What was the first question?
Elections in the Taliban.
Oh, well, I think there were more than 1,000 polling stations closed. My understanding is that most of that happened in the south and east. So elections didn't occur to the same extent in those areas. And then in a place like Kandahar, there were a number of complaints, which I'm sure you've seen the reporting, that Ahmed Wali Karzai's brother, had picked his list of candidates who he wanted to win before the elections. And so he had been trying to orchestrate how those elections resulted. So there were some elections, so they were occurring to a certain extent, but then there's a question again of probably in those areas like Kandahar, they're not perceived as at all legitimate. They're seen as Ahmed Wali Karzai orchestrating, and he's not a highly popular figure. So I don't know if you want to add.